Hi and welcome to another story, and today we have part 2 of Birthday Boy by David Baddiel, continuing from chapter 7, Every Day Magical. You what? You what? You what? Said Grandpa Sam later that day. Ah, now, you see, you stupid, have started to say things over and over again, said Grandpa Mike. You old fool, you've gone completely gaga. Me, Gaga? You're the one that's Gaga. You, in fact, are Lady Gaga, said Grandpa Sam. Oh, what a joke. You should be doing a blinking comedy act with material like that. Hang on, I'll phone Michael McIntyre and tell him he may as well retire. Oh, shut up, said Grandpa Sam. You boom-donking dipfong. Grandpa Sam swore a lot, but luckily it was all swear words he made up, so it's okay for you to hear them. Fudge blaster, piggled angler, dung pie, snot bum. Okay, that one is getting quite close to real swearing. Blob noodler and great big fraggle stooping busty plop were all in his repertoire. Secretly, if you ever meet the others, don't tell them. Grandpa Sam was Sam's favourite grandparent. It was partly because Sam was named after him, and partly because Grandpa Sam was the first person apart from his parents who saw him on the day he was born, but mainly because of the funny swear words. Whenever he did one, like now, when saying boom donking dipfong, he would wink at Sam and Ruby, as if to let them know they were in on the joke. You shut up, said Grandpa Mike. I'll do you if you call me stuff like that, I will, I'll do you. Grandpa Mike didn't swear as much as Grandpa Sam, but he did speak in an accent that sounded as if he came from an old British film, and he waved his fists around a lot and suggested he was going to fight people, mainly Grandpa Sam. This was because he thought of himself, even though he was 77, as hard. As a tough guy, he sometimes referred with a dark air of mystery the time spent in his earlier life inside, which sometimes means prison, which what Grandpa Mike wanted you to think. But what he actually meant was inside, his house, because he didn't much like going out. Grandpa Sam reacted to Grandpa Mike's aggression by whistling a happy tune, which he always did when Grandpa Mike got cross, which only made Grandpa Mike more furious. Shut your whistle, oh! I said I'll do you! He will, that's right. Don't call my husband stupid names, said Grandma Glenda to Grandpa Sam. She was married, as you may have been able to work out, to Grandpa Mike. Don't you tell my husband not to tell your husband to shut up, said Grandma Poppy, who, I don't have to tell you this, do I, was married to Grandpa Sam. Poppy was very thin. She ate an awful lot of sponge cake and toffees and biscuits with jam in the middle and other stuff that old people like, but without ever putting on weight. This was not true of Grandma Glenda, who ate virtually nothing, constantly counting calories and demanding no butter on her bread and refusing pudding unless it was the dullest puddings, rice ones, with skimmed milk and no jam, for example, but was shaped not unlike a large balloon, although one filled with flesh rather than air. Oh, yeah, said Grandma Glenda, getting up from her chair and leaning over the table and putting her face very close to Grandma Poppy's. And who's going to stop me? I am, said Vicky, coming into the living room with a teapot. Come on, Mum, Dad, Glenda, Mike. We're not going to be fighting today, remember? Because, and here she glanced significantly in Sam's direction, it's a special day. All the grandparents looked at each other. Oh, yes, they said at once. Happy birthday, Sam, they chorused. Yes, it's strange, said Grandma Poppy. We all woke up with those words in our heads, didn't we? I suppose so, said Grandma Glenda, as if it was hard to agree with Grandma Poppy about anything. Well, I mean, yes, we did, all of us. Then they folded their arms and sat back in their chairs and did their best to smile at each other. That was when Sam really started to believe it was true, because what his grandparents usually liked to do when they came around was fight and shout and swear at each other. The only days that they didn't do that were his birthday and Ruby's birthday. He knew it wasn't Ruby's birthday, so it must be his birthday. Again, today. For a second it bothered him that his mum had referred to today as a special day, because if it was a special day, what did that make the day before, which had been Sam's real birthday? But then again, today was feeling pretty real, birthday-wise. His dad had come back from the shops with loads of new presents, stuff left over from his birthday list that he hadn't got the day before, a chess set, a lava lamp, 2 video games, 3 new t-shirts and a pair of headphones, wireless with Bluetooth and noise reduction. Plus, his mum had nipped out when his dad had got back and got him a book to go with the telescope, with maps of stars and constellations to find and check against the night sky. And his grandparents had brought him presents too. Rubbish ones, of course, but they always did that. Well, not rubbish ones. Ones that they would have got when they were children. Basically, Grandma Poppy had got him a pipe that blew bubbles. Grandpa Sam gave him an old watch, which he said he'd like to see him, Sam, wear every day. And Grandpa Mike and Grandma Glenda had got him a pack of cards with which you could play Happy Families. So, yes, rubbish ones. But Sam still thought, well, it's not actually going to be like a birthday. Yes, I've got presents, and yes, my mum brought me breakfast in bed, and yes, my grandparents are fighting. But it's not. And then the doorbell rang. Who's that? Said Sam. "Why don't you go and see?" said his dad. Sam shrugged and went to the door, assuming that it would be the man with the shaven head and the tattoos on his face who sold dusters and kitchen cloths for £10 each and had a card saying he'd recently come out of prison. He often came round on a Sunday afternoon, but as Sam approached the door he could tell that it wasn't him. He looked like a much bigger person, with about 10 strange heads. When he opened the door, though, it wasn't a much bigger person with about 10 heads. It was Finn, and Jake, and the Ice Queen, and a whole bunch of other characters from Adventure Time, and weirdly Richard the Rabbit Dad from The Amazing World of Gumball. "Oh," said Sam, with some surprise. "Happy birthday, Sam," chorused Finn and Jake and the Ice Queen from Adventure Time, and Richard the Dad from The Amazing World of Gumball. Except it wasn't actually them. This story isn't the magical, it's more everyday magical. It was all Sam's friends from Bracket Wood in costume. Barry and Lucas and Taj and Fred and Ellie and Morris and Isla. It was Morris who got it wrong and dressed as Richard. "Oh," said Sam again. "Come." He was going to say in, but by then everyone had already piled in, rushing past his astonished face. Chapter 8. New Kid. After the party was over, Sam realised he hadn't properly had time, what with all the second birthday and 2 days activity, to play with his skateboard. So while it was still light, he took the lift down to the ground level, holding his board. The lift at Noam Chomsky House was a massive silver, not real silver, obviously painted silver, box. It smelt not unlike a big toilet, particularly in one corner, and when they all took the lift together, Sam and Ruby would always try to push each other into the bit, and it creaked a lot. But Sam didn't mind that. It got him to the bottom all right, and on the ground outside the tower block there were loads of concreted over areas, some of which had humps and tunnels and ramps that made it almost like a little skate park. The lift doors opened, and Sam got on his board and skated out to the concrete. He sailed easily over the paved path, and then down one of the ramps into the small bowl-like section which cut underneath the main tower. It was a touch grim in there sometimes. Sometimes Sam felt it looked like a place where one of those crime dramas that his parents watched on TV would have had their final big shootout scene, but it was the best part for skateboarding. Then he stopped, because someone was already there. It was a kid about his own age, but a little smaller. He had cropped short hair and dark skin and wore a grey hoodie. But these things were not important. What was important was that he was an amazing skater. Alpha flips, ollie norths, ollie souths, 720s, spins, tail grabs, pull-ups. He could do them all. He made his grim bowl-like area under Noam Chomsky House feel like a skate park in one of those places Sam had seen on YouTube, in America or wherever, where the sky always seemed to be blue and the wheels and helmets of the skaters dazzled in the sun. Sam watched for a while, awestruck. Then the boy must have noticed him, because he flipped the board round and skated effortlessly towards him, at which point Sam noticed that despite being a brilliant skater, the kid was not riding a brilliant board. It was scratched and battered, and although that did make it look kind of cool, the wheels were pitted, the grip tape was worn out, and the trucks were bent, and none of the parts were from any top-level brands. And then, looking up from the board, Sam noticed something else. The skater wasn't a boy. He was a girl. "Hello," she said. "Hi," said Sam. "Do you live around here?" "Yes," said the girl. She had a strong accent, which Sam couldn't place, but sounded similar to the way frightened people spoke on the news in reports from countries that always seemed to be at war, except she didn't sound frightened. 15th floor. My family were just placed there by the government. I don't know how long we will be staying." Oh, right," said Sam. "You're a great skater." "Thanks," she said. "Where I come from, we had to stop going to school, and we lived near a car park, but no cars ever came there anymore. So, just to keep me busy, my father—" And here she held the board up, a little apologetically, as if knowing it wasn't quite as flash as it should be. "He built me this board, and I went to the car park every day and learnt a lot of tricks." "Why? Why, what? Why did you stop going to school?" "Because the school was bombed." "Oh," said Sam, feeling a bit stupid, because up to that point he'd quite liked the sound of them not having to go to school. "That's okay," the girl said. "Hey, who wants to go to school?" Which made Sam laugh, but she was too busy looking down at his new present to notice. "Nice board." "Thanks. Do you want to have a go?" he said, holding out his shiny and sparkling new board. "Sorry, I don't know your name." "My name is Zada, and you should try out your board first. It's your birthday, isn't it?" Sam stared at her. "How do you know that?" Zada frowned. "I'm not sure. Good guess, I suppose." Sam considered saying, "Well, now that my birthday might be happening every day, you were on fairly safe ground with that guess," but thought that might be a bit complicated for a girl he'd just met. "Okay," he said instead, and kicked off. He felt a little nervous, actually, skating in front of someone who was so good. He tried a few of his more limited tricks, but as he went round the bowl, he went too fast and ended up falling off. Zada was really nice about it, though. "Doesn't matter," she said. "Get back on. Keep going. Just move your weight more gently. Yes, that is right." She kept shouting encouragement, helping Sam. Through the turn of the bowl and down again, and as night started to fall and the streetlights started to come on around the estate, Sam relaxed into his skateboarding stride and learnt from his new expert he'd just met. It was one of the best parts of this, his second birthday of the year. Chapter 9. This could get complicated. As Sam tucked into his third birthday breakfast in 3 mornings and saw his mum and dad smiling at him, although the smiles were rather tired. It had been a long party the day before, and his parents must have been up late wrapping all his new presents, because there was a whole new batch sitting in front of Sam on the bedclothes, all tied up with coloured ribbon. He wondered how far, basically, he could push this. "So," he said, washing down a delicious bit of doughnut and bacon with a gulp of lemonade, "I don't think I fancy going to school today." "Oh," said Sam's mum. "Really?" "Yes," he said. "After all, it is my birthday." His parents glanced at each other. Said Charlie. Of course it is." "Every day is your birthday," said Vicky. Sam looked up at her as she said this to see if there was a hint of any undertone in her expression, sarcasm, or jokiness, or just uncertainty. But there wasn't. "You do normally go to school on your birthday," Charlie continued, "if it's a school day." "I know," said Sam, "but thanks, Mum. Thanks, Dad." He'd unwrapped the first of today's presents, a big electric toy car and remote control. "I don't think it's fair." "What?" said Vicky. "To have to go to school on my birthday." "Actually, I went to school on my birthday this year," said Ruby, coming into the room. "My one birthday." Sam nodded. He noticed that whatever magic was making everyone, including Ruby, accept that his birthday was happening every day, it hadn't stopped his sister from being quite annoyed about it. "OK," said Sam, "but did that feel fair?" "No," said Ruby, after the tiniest second of thought. "And also," said Sam, "if I'm going to be having my birthday every day, I should be able to mix it up a bit. Otherwise, most days are going to be the same." His parents looked at each other. Vicky shrugged. "Well, I suppose I could call the school and ask if they'll let you have the day off." "Is that legal?" said Charlie. "Not without permission from the head teacher, actually," said Ruby. She was, as I say, quite advanced for a 7-year-old. "OK, but I think Mr. Fawcett," that was the head teacher, "won't mind if I tell him it's just for this one special day." At that point, Sam's parents looked at each other again. They were both thinking the same thing. "Oh, it's not just this one special day. It's every day. This could get complicated." "Great," said Sam. "And then you'd better call work and ask them if they'll let you have the day off." "This could get complicated," said Sam's dad. But this birthday at least wasn't that complicated. First a theme park, then 5 Guys for lunch, then go-karting in the afternoon, then the new Pixar movie, then Byron for dinner. Sam liked burgers. It was a great day. There was a slightly difficult moment when Vicky and Charlie had a row about paying the bill at Byron, where they'd had to have a cake, as well, of course. But by the time they got home, it was all forgotten. Chapter 10. The Whole School. The next day Sam went to school. He hadn't been sure about this. He'd thought about demanding another day off, seeing as it was, after all, his birthday, but then remembered that every day was now his birthday and decided he couldn't stay off school every day. When he got to school, though, things weren't quite as they usually were. As he arrived, he could see there was an enormous banner placed on top of the main gate. Getting closer, he saw that it said, "Happy Birthday, Sam!" And just to make sure no one confused him with any of the other Sams at Brackard Wood Primary School, it said underneath, "Green, 6B." Then, when Sam walked into the playground, the whole school was there. The school orchestra, actually just 5 children, with a violin, a guitar, 2 recorders and a pair of cymbals, started playing the opening chords to Happy Birthday. Everyone joined in, even reception, who, like all reception kids, don't really know the words or the tune, and obviously one of them was crying. At the end of it, Mr. Fawcett, the head teacher, came forward with an enormous cake. It also had the words "Happy Birthday, Sam, Green, 6B" on the top, and a figure with his arms in the air that looked like a man, who some time ago had melted. "Here you are, Sam," he said. "Thank you, Mr. Fawcett," said Sam, bemused. "Is that a clay model of me?" "Yes, it was made by that boy in reception, the one who's crying." Mr. Fawcett looked at the boy and then at the clay model. "Sorry," he said. "It's fine," said Sam. "Thank you." It did occur to Sam to ask Mr. Fawcett why they hadn't made anything like this fuss last year on the 8th of September, when he'd had to go to school on his actual birthday. But the idea of that day being his actual birthday was fading in his mind, so he forgot about it and blew the candles out. The whole school went, "Hooray!" "Make a wish," said Mr. Fawcett. No, that seems a bit pointless," said Sam, "seeing as my birthday's happening every day now." Oh, yes. We don't want to be greedy, do we? Wise, wise. Wish wise, said Mr. Fawcett. Sam nodded. Then another thought occurred to him. Did you have all this ready to do yesterday, when I didn't come? Mr. Fawcett looked slightly embarrassed, as did Mr. Barrington, the deputy head, and Sam's form teacher, as did the orchestra and everyone else there. Yes, shouted the crying boy tearfully. It was the oddest thing, said Mr. Fawcett. I woke up yesterday morning with some words in my head, and those words were, Happy Birthday, Sam, and I thought, why not make it his birthday every day? So did I, said Barry Bennett. And me, said Malcolm Bailey. Us too, said Fred and Ellie Stone. So, we all got everything ready, continued Mr. Fawcett, and again today. Oh, sorry, everybody, said Sam. No problem, really. After all, we're going to be doing some sort of celebration for you every day from now on. Shall I cut the cake? Asked Sam, looking around for a knife. Well, no, said Mr. Fawcett. You are not, in fact, no pupils are allowed to eat any of it, not on school grounds, due to a new dietary rules established by Jamie Oliver. Sam thought for a moment. Then he said, But it's my birthday. Mr. Fawcett frowned. He glanced over at Mr. Barrington, who shrugged. Oh, all right then, he said, and the whole school tucked in, with their hands, which meant the crying boy stopped crying. Chapter 11. Hodgepodge. When Sam got to his class, Mr. Barrington, who was also his form teacher, said, Right, OK. He used his usual schoolmastery tone, but then found himself saying, almost against his will, it seemed, it was like someone else was making him say it, something not very schoolmasterly. So, right, well, because it's Sam's birthday again today, he glanced at Sam, who was sitting at the front of the class. He is going to choose what subjects we do. Really? Said Sam. Yes, said Mr. Barrington, although he looked as surprised as everyone else about it. I suppose I seem to have said so now anyway, so what would you like? English, maths, history, DT? Sam thought about it for a moment. He was beginning to realise something about the way this worked, something powerful. Silly words, he said. I beg your pardon? Silly words, said Sam, a lesson on which words and phrases are the silliest. A noise came up from the rest of the class, one that sounded like a combination of yes, definitely, that sounds fun, and let's do that. Sam wasn't sure where the idea had come from, although he had to pin it down, it was probably something to do with Grandpa Sam and his funny swearing. No, I meant, the usual subject, said Mr. Barrington. Sam raised his eyebrows and said that he was now starting to realise where the magic words. But, sir, it's my birthday. Bottom, said Morris for the 5th time. I've told you, Morris, we're not allowed rude words. Bottom isn't a rude word, Mr. Barrington, said Fred. Well, it can be. Mr. Barrington held his magic marker up to the whiteboard. The way the lesson worked was this. Members of 6B put their hands up, said a silly word, and if the general response was that the word was silly enough, Mr. Barrington wrote it down on the board, in no particular order, although there was a sense that at the end of the lesson there would be a vote on the silliest. Word, that is. So far written up were the words stickleback, portion, muckle, knickers, just got under the rude bar apparently, ballyhoo, stinky, nosehole, flappy, blubber, hodgepodge, shrub. Lucas, said Mr. Barrington in response to a hand going up. Fart. Definitely rude, said Mr. Barrington. Ellie? Puddle duck. That's a name. Of a duck, sir. Yes, but still, a name, a surname, in fact. Are we allowed proper nouns, Sam? Sir, said Sam, it's your lesson. I just suggested the topic. Mr. Barrington considered for a moment. A part of him seemed pleased that at least, in amongst all the silly wordage, there had been a moment of grammar. I think not, he said. Any more for any more? Bottom. That's it, Morris. Detention. Chapter 12. A packet of Werther's Originals, some shoelaces and a jar of Duraglit. A few days later, Sam was walking home with Ruby, who was at the same school in Year 3. So, you're enjoying it, said Ruby. Having your birthday every day. Of course. Sam thought this was a weird question. He told Ruby about the silly words lesson. Today they'd done a whole class on who can blow the loudest raspberry. Strangely enough, Mr. Barrington, as it turned out. And then a final session on the stupidest food, a tie between cheese bananas and cat food crumble. It's not getting at all boring? No, said Sam, because when we get home, Mum and Dad will have made a cake and party food and stuff, and they'll have organised some treat like they did yesterday and the day before. What did they do again? Oh, it was great, said Sam. He paused. That was weird. He couldn't remember. Had pizza, he said. We went out and had pizza, and then we went to the late-night showing at the planetarium. It was fun. Ruby shook her head. No, actually, Sam. That was 3 days ago. Yesterday we went to the zoo. She gave him a look as she said it, a look Sam didn't like one bit. "What are you saying?" said Sam. "Nothing," said Ruby. "You are. You're trying to spoil everything, which is a horrible thing to do on my birthday." Ruby nodded and seemed to sigh. "OK, sorry," she said, and skipped off ahead. Despite Sam's refusal to think about what Ruby was saying, he knew it was something troubling, but he couldn't quite say what it was. He did make an unusual decision as he walked home behind his skipping sister, which was, a few minutes later, not to go straight home. He suggested to Ruby, because it was on their way home, that instead they should pop into where their grandparents lived. His grandparents lived in a place called Abbey Court, which was a building that provided something called sheltered accommodation. This meant that it was a place where old people could live and have some help, but not actually an old age home. It wasn't, to be honest, somewhere that Sam usually wanted to go, but, apart from wanting to make it clear to Ruby that she wasn't always the good one, something about what she'd said had made him not want to rush home and get the cake and the party food and the treat straight away, like he normally would. Something about it had made him want to put off the next birthday moment for a little while. Plus, perhaps Grandpa Sam would say some of his funny swear words. They went in through the front gate and up to the lobby with Abbey Court written on it. As Sam opened one of the glass doors, he thought again about how strange it was that he wanted to put off going home and having more birthday time, more birthdayness. He thought that was very odd. He also thought it was odd that it was so dark in the lobby. It was normally quite brightly lit. Then suddenly the lights went on, to reveal Sam's grandparents and everyone else who lived at Abbey Court standing there in party hats, blowing party horns. Grandma Glenda and Grandma Poppy were holding a cake between them. It had a model of Abbey Court on it, including the sign, "Sheltered Accommodation," in green icing. They were holding it in a slightly uncomfortable diagonal way, as Poppy was a lot taller than Glenda. The model of Abbey Court was, in fact, sliding dangerously towards Glenda. "Happy birthday, Sam," said the residents of Abbey Court, not entirely together, as some of them got his name wrong. One said Sammy, another Samantha, and one Dick, but it was still an amazing thing to see. And then, even more amazing, each resident of Abbey Court came up to Sam with individually wrapped presents. Some of these wouldn't, it has to be said, have been on any of Sam's birthday lists. A packet of Werther's Originals, some shoelaces, a jar of polish called Duraglit, and something else that turned out to be a case for false teeth. But he said, "Thank you," as he unwrapped every one. Each of the residents said, "It's a pleasure, and don't worry about sending a thank you card," before wandering back into the main building. "But," said Sam, "but how did you know I was coming?" "I'm not sure," said Grandpa Mike. "It was you, wasn't it, Glenda? You said Sam would probably pop in today, didn't you?" "Oh, typical," said Grandma Poppy. "It had to be your side of the family that knew, of course." "Don't be so stupid," said Grandma Glenda. "Why shouldn't it be?" "Yes," said Grandpa Mike. "After all, it wasn't going to be Grandpa Sam, was it? He wouldn't have known because he doesn't know anything anymore." Sam frowned. It was at this point that he realised that Grandpa Sam hadn't been there at all during the whole party, and he still wasn't there now. Where was he? Grandpa Mike, Grandma Glenda, Grandma Poppy. They all stopped and looked around. It was Ruby who had spoken. "Remember, it's Sam's birthday, isn't it?" "Oh, yes, oh, yes, oh, yes," the three of them said. And then they knocked at each other and did a very bad attempt at smiling at each other. Sam looked at them. He said, "Where's Grandpa Sam?" They all turned to each other. Grandma Poppy frowned. "I don't know," she said. "He was here at lunch." "Oh, no," said Grandpa Mike. "The old codger's done a runner." And that is where we will leave part 2 of Birthday Boy by David Baddiel. I'll be back soon with lots more stories and videos on my channel. If you would like to subscribe or hit a like, that's always appreciated. Thanks for listening, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.